Jen Mall, and welcome to Nurse Connect. I am an RN and a board-certified nurse coach. I believe that connecting with others is essential to living a happy and fulfilled life, and that sharing our stories not only helps us to heal ourselves, but also helps others by inspiring hope and optimism. I am so grateful to share stories of these incredible nurses on their journey, and I encourage you to find a way to share yours too. Thanks for listening in. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Jen Mall with Nurse Connect Podcast, and I've got Kate here with me today. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Love for you to start off by sharing a little bit about yourself. How did you become a nurse? What's been your career path? Where are you at now?
Well, I do feel like my career path has wound around quite a lot, but I think that's common for some of us.
Yeah.
So I am a second degree nurse. So my first degree was a bachelor's in psychology. I kind of had this idea that I was going to get my PhD in psychology and do research.
Wow.
I've always enjoyed research. I've always thought it was fun. But like I think a lot of people, at the end of getting my first bachelor's degree, I had been working like 25 hours a week. I'd been working on a thesis, and I just thought, I can't go back to school right now. I kind of freaked out a little. And the job that I had worked in college, at least my senior year of college and maybe junior year as well, was I worked in a group home for adults with mental illness. So, helping with like activities of daily living and medications and stuff. And so because of that, I was aware of community mental health. I had not really been aware of community mental health prior to that. And so I decided that I would, since I had a degree now, the people in the house that had degrees were usually case managers. Like those of us without degrees were, the workers, group home workers. I can't remember exactly what the role was called. So I said, okay, I can't go back. I don't want to get my master's degree right now. I'm going to move back to my hometown of Indianapolis and work in a community mental health center as a case manager.
Cool.
So I did that for about 4 years. I worked in one community mental health center, and then a second one, kind of 2 and 2 year stints. But while I was working there, my first grown-up job, it was very, very interesting. And I learned so much about supporting families and supporting clients. But the nurses on our team and the psychiatrists and the NPs could just see that I was really interested in the medical aspect, the medication aspect.
Yeah.
And they said, you should really go back to nursing school. And I said,
that's awesome.
Okay. So, I just did a few of those prereqs and the things I needed. And then I did an accelerated bachelor's program. So that was so fun. I think I had this idea when I was in school, or when I went to school. I was like, okay, I'm going to get my nursing degree and I'll come back to community mental health. I love the nurses that I worked with, and I thought they were great, the work that they did. But I think this happens to a lot of us. While I was in nursing school, I got really interested in cardiology. The cohort that I was with, our class was small. There was only 30 of us. We joked around. We called ourselves the IU School of Cardiac Nursing because almost all of our instructors had a cardiac background. So
interesting.
Not everybody went into cardiac at all, but I found it really, really interesting. And so I worked on the floor I got a job on the floor that I had worked as a student nurse, which I think it made it a really easy transition, working as a student nurse and then knowing all the people and knowing the workflows. And I enjoyed that. I did that floor for about 2.5 years. And at that time I think I was just about 30. I wasn't married, and I knew I really wanted to do travel nursing before I kind of settled down and stuff. So I did about a year of travel nursing on the West Coast. I worked in Seattle and LA, and that was such an amazing experience. Really, I felt like a really competent inpatient nurse here in Indiana, but I thought, am I really good though? Or am I just good at this one hospital that I've only ever worked at? So it really helped me see where my strengths were, helped me learn a lot of things. I love the West Coast, but my family's here in Indiana. And then the man who would become my husband is here in Indiana. And he said, well, if you want to get married, you're going to have to move back here. Fair. So I came back. The big hospital system that I worked for prior to leaving was on a hiring freeze at that time. So I took a job at a different hospital that was pretty stressful. The patient ratios were higher than what I was used to. And it just seemed overwhelming to me. And so I kind of had this idea, hey, we're going to get married. Inpatient is seeming pretty stressful. What can I do to make maybe a balance where I think I'm going to have a better life balance as a mom and that kind of thing. So I found, I didn't know it was called informatics, but I found my first informatics job. It was a federally qualified health center here in Indianapolis that was looking for, they were advertising specifically for a nurse, but the job was called EMR analyst. And I thought, don't really know what this is, but they're asking for a nurse. Let me see. And that was the start of a 7-year stint at that health center. And it was a great job. So interesting. I learned a ton about the back end of charting and that type of thing. I got to do a lot of education. All of the new medical assistants, nurses, doctors, and specialists too, that came through our facility needed EMR training. And so I was one of, we were a small team, so we kind of did everything. We did the help desk, the training. So I got the opportunity of training lots of our docs and dentists and nurses. And that was fun. I've always loved to teach. I love the one-on-one teaching that happens with patients and their families. So doing it for my colleagues was different, but I enjoyed that. So, during that time I got married, had a child. I had my stepdaughter, who was part of my life when I got married, and it was the work-life balance was great, but I was feeling that pull to connect with patients again. And so the health center that I worked at was going to begin a chronic care management program, which is, where Medicare helps pay for folks who have Medicare and 2 or more chronic conditions to kind of get like an extra case management nurse. Yeah, it was. And I thought I would be perfect for this role. I have case management experience. I have this EMR experience. I love patients and their families. And so I lobbied to get it, even though at this job, they had not really known me clinically. I said, I got clinical skills, give me a shot. And they did. And it started, the role started on March 2nd of 2020. And so the world ground to a halt. It stopped. The role was different than they had initially imagined. They had imagined that I would be in the clinics a couple of days a week, and then I would do telephonic support. The rest of the time, they said, "Ooh, we don't want anybody in the health centers who does not absolutely have to be there," which totally fair. And it just, although I made some really awesome connections during that time with patients and their families, and I loved it, it wasn't working with having a 3-year-old because her daycare had shut down, come back. It was very uncertain, how that was going to go. And so I thought, oh boy, even though this is what I really wanted, it just doesn't seem to be working out right now. Let me see what I can find. That health center would have absolutely taken me back to my former role, but I thought, I think I need something even a little more flexible.
Good.
They needed people, of course, to be able to commit to teaching the classes. And I thought, I saw all my friends, myself and my friends with kids even just a little older than my daughter, was that, schools were shut down and they had to commit, they had to be the teacher and be the childcare for their kids. And I thought, man, I don't think I can commit to teaching classes sometimes. So I kind of searched and I found a job back at the health center, the largest health system here in Indiana, where I had initially worked as a nurse, where they needed somebody to do basically analyst work for non-oncology research. So that's the role I'm in right now. And I get to help our nurses with turning their research protocols into the order sets that will direct the patient care. When I interviewed, I was just very honest. And I said, wow, this is just a crazy time. I need a job where, if stuff goes badly, if I have to take care of my daughter during the day, can I do my work at night? And they said, this is absolutely that job. And I said, okay, please sign me up. And so that's what I've been doing for about 2.5 years now. Yeah. And I'm working with awesome research nurses who are just so incredible. They're so dedicated to all types of research, GI, cardiac, there's some peds stuff. And I've never been a peds nurse. I've always been a grown-up nurse. So it's like learning constantly, which I love. I have a wonderful boss. I work business hours, but again, I can flex if things get hectic. If anything were to happen. with COVID again or anything else. And yet, I still feel that pull to support patients / clients and their families. So, you know, in the midst of that, I didn't mention this before. So in the midst of all that, I feel like I have a creative side too. And it's always kind of hard to know how to express that. Like, you know, do you write fiction? Do you do art? Like how does one express one's creative side? And for me, that's always pretty much been writing. And I had learned a few years ago about copywriting, writing for business purposes. So emails, blogs, website copy, et cetera. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to marry my interest in writing. So I took a copywriting course, and just so kind of on the side, I have been doing copywriting for nutrition coaches, for mental health therapists, for other type of at the beginning, I had kind of focused on mental health because I thought, well, I have this mental health background. And so this is a place I can kind of express myself. But I had a long-term blog client who did not need my blogs anymore. He kind of felt like his website was where he needed it to be blog wise. And so I thought, who else can I serve? I like mental health, but I'm a nurse now, and who can I serve? And so I was just kind of searching around, and I found nurse coaches, and I thought, oh, these nurse coaches seem amazing. I love what they're doing. I created I started following the nurse coach hashtag on Instagram. And so to the surprise of no one who knows me very well, although I was trying to kind of like stalk and find nurse coaches to write for, and I've written for some. I ended up hiring one because that doesn't surprise me at all, because I just get interested in things. So I found this wonderful nurse coach on Instagram, Susie, who she was helping me with some digestive stuff and some energy levels and sleep. And I just thought, wow, she was wonderful. I ended up, writing some website copy, not for her, but for another nurse coach. And then I thought, I don't know, this is pretty interesting. Could I do this? And so I really fought it for probably about a year. I thought, oh, I don't know. Who am I? The people that do nurse coaching seem so, I don't know, they do amazing things. They really help people transform their lives. I don't know. I don't know if I have that, but it just wouldn't really let go of my brain. And so I signed up to have a screening call for the Nurse Coach Collective. And I ended up enrolling in this upcoming October collective. So exciting. Where that fits into the rest of my career, I couldn't tell you.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And what you have showcased is just how diverse nursing is.
Oh, yes.
And you've been a nurse around 9 years now? I count back.
Probably about 14. I think about 14.
Okay. Yeah. So I love all the varied careers that you've already had in nursing. And I'm similar. I'm a former informatics nurse. I've been a nurse educator. I'm a nurse coach now. I worked in residency. I've been consulting. I love that in nursing, if you're interested in it, you can create it. And you've created copywriting business, and with the mental health, and the case management and bedside. You're truly unlimited in nursing and what you want to create. And I love that you were so honest with your future employer, that you told them, this is what I can do. And they said, yes. And so that just showcases that ask for what you want. The answer was always no if you don't ask.
Yes. And I truly, I don't think I ever would have been brave enough to say that to somebody that I didn't know before, maybe a boss that I already had a relationship with. But the pandemic was a stressful time for all of us, of course. And I thought, I just have to be honest. And I'm never dishonest, but I have to be brave and say it. And the worst they can say is, no, you won't be a fit for this role. And they did say yes. And it's been true. That was right and correct. And my boss is wonderful and supportive. But no, I agree with you. That was one of the things that my friends and that I graduated from nursing school with all those years ago have said is just, that is my favorite thing about being a nurse, is that we can do anything. You don't have to get bored. You don't have to, you don't have to get another degree to do something different. And it was definitely the best professional decision I've ever made was to become a nurse. And I'm so grateful for just all the opportunities available to us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's so fun. So as you're, I was going to ask you what your favorite thing about being a nurse is, but I think we just kind of touched on that. Did you say?
Yes. I just truly, the unlimited opportunity to just do something different. And I think that a lot of times when we are in nursing school, if we maybe had a specific idea in mind, like I said, I had this idea, I would go back out to community mental health, but many people, especially if you go straight into nursing, like if you maybe didn't have another job ahead of time, I think a lot of us envision working in an inpatient setting or maybe a doctor's office,
Yeah.
That's just kind of what's in the popular imagination.
Yes.
But there's so many things. And, my previous boss at my previous informatics role, gosh, I can't even remember what his degree was. He was not a nurse, but I believe he might have been like a Spanish major, because he's a native Spanish speaker, but also fluent in English. And he was an interpreter at our health center. That's how he kind of got started. But we talked about how we wish we could do more for the students coming behind us to kind of explain to them, there are a lot of different career paths that you may not have heard of. And it's great to inpatient nursing is great. And it's very, very important.
Needed.
But I do think it is important for us to, if we're going to shine a spotlight on nurses, to let nursing students know, and new grads and those of us who are in the field, there's a lot of different places you can take it, guys. And I do, especially when I think about the pandemic specifically, but even times before that, the amount of burnout that we can get into is, it can go to a really bad place. Like you can really quit nursing altogether. You can, not have your family life work out right because of how stressed you are. And so I think before we get to that place, that might be a good place to stop and say, okay, maybe I do want to continue as an inpatient nurse someday, or maybe I don't. But before I throw everything away, before I completely get out of nursing, like how can I take a breath and use these skills that I have and use these intrinsic qualities that I have to get to a place where I may be a little bit less burned out and not completely leave nursing,
Yes. Oh my gosh. You've just hit that on the head, because I have definitely seen but even before the pandemic, but I would say in the last few years, people that nurses that have traditionally just worked in bedside roles, I understand why they're so burned out. Like we've kind of made it through the big hump of COVID, and now we're trying to get back to normal. Things aren't normal anymore. It's just not the way it is, and things are different. But I think they feel really stagnant, and it's like, well, what else can I do? And it's like, you can do whatever you want, but it does take you being curious and maybe acknowledging that you are not at a place you want to be right now, and being open to exploring something new. And that can be scary when you've never done anything like that before, but you've got such a great outlook. And I think I share the same. As when I start getting bored in a job, it's okay. It's okay to start exploring something new, because that is the beauty of nursing, is there are so many options.
Oh yeah, completely. I completely agree with that. And I think too, is that, if we can kind of look at a different part of your career, you don't have to leave the other stuff behind.
No.
In the role that I work in right now, I work with, research nurses who are directly interfacing with patients. I work with a lot of other analysts who are all nurses as well. So it's awesome to feel like I'm still surrounded by nurses. Like we all still have patient interests of top of mind. We all kind of speak the same language.
Yes.
And so I haven't touched a patient in about 2 years, 2.5 years, but I'm still a nurse. I still think of myself as a nurse, and I really haven't lost that piece. And that's a thing that I would love people to know, is that, of course, change is scary, or it can feel scary. Some people aren't scared of change. I am. I do it. I just do it scared,
Yes.
But you don't have to, you're not losing your clinical brain or all those skills you worked so hard for. They're still there. you just apply them in a different way.
Totally, totally. And I got that because I've been a nurse educator for 15 years in various roles between informatics. I did a lot of nursing education, like you said, and I got that question initially when I first started becoming an ER educator. Is that, well, are you still a nurse? Yeah, I'm still a nurse. Like, I get my license up. I am probably more deeply ingrained in the profession than I was when I was just a bedside nurse, which you're never just anything. But
Mm.
when I felt like when I was at the bedside, I was just kind of like blinders on, right? You come in, you do your job, and you leave. But beyond the bedside, and even at bedside nursing, you absolutely have the ability to impact a broader circle. But as a nurse educator and in informatics role at a system level, like, I had the ability to impact change at a much larger level. And that's pretty cool. It's also overwhelming sometimes, but I am, once a nurse, always a nurse. And I think that's important, is just, if you leave the bedside, it doesn't mean you're not a nurse anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I remember in my first or second year of informatics, I was struggling with those feelings a little bit. And I talked
Mm-hmm.
with our associate medical director at the health center I was working at. And because he's a physician, he, I think, still saw patients 1 day a week, but did so many more things beyond that. And I
Mm-hmm.
just told him, I said, I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing care anymore or whatever. And he was he would point it out. He said, yeah, but think of the like 1,000 patients that you might have impacted since you've been here, with all the trainings that you've done of the new providers and things. So I think, and I appreciated that. And that
Yeah.
perspective is true. I think for me, um, a thing that I can struggle with, but again, I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's okay to just kind of let your career unfold the way it's going to, is that I just kind of go back and forth between those thoughts. I go back and forth between, like, yes, I am doing something that impacts people in another way. And I can think of the nurses and the doctors that I work with right now as my patients. I sort of do. And so I
Yeah.
want to make sure that they have everything they need so that they can take care of their folks. But at other times I do miss the true, like, one-to-one interaction or the one to family interaction. So
Yeah.
those things can both be true, and it's okay to explore both of them, I think.
Absolutely. Such a great perspective. So if you could think of a couple things, and I think we touched on and several little nuggets in here, but what would be kind of your advice or suggestion if somebody's starting to feel kind of stagnant? Like, well, what would your suggestions be to, like, approach that?
Sure. I think that one thing I would say is, if you can look at your job right now, again, if
Hmm.
it's an inpatient nurse or a clinic nurse or just whatever, if there's any part of it that you are feeling more drawn to, or you don't feel as when I have to do that role. So I think of some of the people that I've met in informatics, and the way they kind of knew that that's where they wanted to go was, in their day to day, maybe they were precepting somebody and they thought,
Mm,
I really enjoy showing them how to chart. I enjoy showing them, how to utilize our EMR. Or other times when, if a new electronic health record is being rolled out, or if there's a system upgrade, there's always like super users on a unit, and
mm-hmm.
they always found themselves volunteering to be the super users. So
Yeah.
they thought, oh, this is what I like. So then they could kind of see, okay, it's not that I'm burned out or I dislike every aspect of my job. There's just some parts are becoming less exciting, less fulfilling. So if you can look at the nugget of what you do like, and then you can kind of explore, okay, is there a way I can make that more of the main focus of my job, And I
Yeah.
would say too, and I know it's easier said than done, but if you can find some time, if that's taking a PTO day or even a PTO week,
Mm-hmm.
and having some quiet time to kind of, for me, it's journaling. Not everybody's into
Yeah.
journaling, but like taking those walks or journaling or talking with a coach, and just allowing yourself to process, if I could create my ideal job or my ideal career, this is what it would look like. Because I just
Yeah.
think that often we do have the answers inside of ourselves. It's just that voice is quiet when we're thinking, oh, I gotta take care of my family. I have
Yes.
to, I have to work these shifts. I have to be on these shifts. Maybe I take care of parents. Maybe we all have a
Mhm.
bazillion responsibilities.
Yeah.
So if you can allow yourself that quiet time to say, okay, I got into nursing. Maybe the exact reason that I got into it has changed. That's okay. But giving yourself that quiet time to listen to what are the things I still love or that I could like or that I might want to explore? So
Yes. Oh, I love that. And and also giving yourself permission to do that. Because I think you've hit on so many points is that most of the time as nurses, we tend to be go-getters. We're caregivers for a lot of other people. We don't often take that time to care for ourselves. Sometimes we feel that that's selfish or we feel guilty for doing that. And so giving yourself permission that if you want to explore something else, that's okay. And that it doesn't make you a bad person if you change your mind about what you're interested in doing. In fact, that's healthy to do, and you can serve people in other ways, and even in sometimes better if you're taking really good care of yourself.
yes, I think that has been a real challenge for me.
Mm-hmm.
I can very easily go there. I can very easily go
Yeah.
to a place that says that is selfish. Taking
Mm-hmm.
time to do your workout is selfish. As a nurse and a mom, I definitely go there right away.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite quality about myself. I'm working
Yeah.
on it. But I realistically, I know it's such a cliche, but we really cannot pour from an empty cup. And when you have that like tiredness and the burnout and the resentment, you're not giving your best. And that's just such an uncomfortable place to be.
It is.
So many of us are, I mean, every nurse I know, more or less cares so deeply. And so
Yeah.
when we get into that place of resentment and exhaustion, it's just then it's a compounding problem because you're not giving your
Yeah.
best, and then you let the guilt get even worse. And so
Yes.
if there's a way, and I know it's hard, and I never say that it's not hard, but if there's a way to try to take that breath, to try to ask for a babysitter or whatever, trade with another mom for a babysitter just to
Yeah.
get some of that alone time or coach time. Again, I'm a real introvert. So my ways of processing things do tend to be by myself or with the
Yeah.
paper, but however you get your processing done, giving yourself permission to do that.
Beautiful. I love it. And I'm definitely going to have to connect you with my friend Rachel, who's a nurse coach, who is a writer and does a lot of writing specifically with nurses.
Ooh.
So if you haven't connected with her, she's great. I've got a podcast episode with her as well. And writing is so therapeutic. And it's been for me as well, just starting journaling. And I also had to give myself permission to journal poorly because I thought I had to do it a certain way. And I think as nurses, right, you have a process, a workflow, some things have to happen in a certain way. And that I had to really take that judgment off of myself and learn how to just let it flow. It didn't matter what came out. It's just for me. And if somebody else reads it, shame on them. Like this is my personal stuff.
Yep.
And so but it's an opportunity to get out a lot of that anger and that resentment and that frustration. And as you start to pour out onto those pages, you start to see, what are you actually interested in? What do I actually want? What do I actually need? What fills me up? And so just giving yourself permission to like take that time and to explore. And for me, that's a lot of that is also writing as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. There's a book called The Artist's Way.
Yes, I'm
And
walking through it right now.
yeah. And she talks about
Yes.
those morning pages. Now, I'll
Yeah.
be real again, with everything in my life, there's ebb and flow. There were times in my
Yeah.
life where I was really committed to doing the morning pages every day. It's not where I am right now. School has
Yeah.
resumed for my 7-year-old. I'm not there, but I think that that's another piece of it too, in that I can be so hard on myself and such a perfectionist, and to say, okay, that's not where I am at this moment. I will probably get back to that practice. Right now, journaling is jotting down some things at the end of the day to
Yes.
just get it out of my head.
Yes.
And I think that that's okay too.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of the work I'm on week 4 right now.
Okay.
So it's been really fun to explore and do my artist dates and do my morning pages. But again, like you said, that comes in ebbs and flows. And there have been times in my life where I haven't journaled a ton, but right now I'm heavy into that. Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, Kate, as we're finishing up here, just want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything left on your heart right now that you'd love to share with our group?
I think I would just say, um, it's a real gift to be a nurse, and it's hard. Being a nurse
Hmm.
is so hard. And it's okay. I think it's just really important for us as nurses to give ourselves and our colleagues and our friends permission to say, I'm struggling right now. I'm not happy the way I thought I would be. You're not a bad nurse. You're not a bad, colleague. You're not a bad mom.
Yeah.
We're doing challenging work, no matter where we are, informaticist, bedside nurse. And it really is okay to say, this is hard right now. Can you help me? Can you help me excel in this role? Can you help me explore something else? Like, ask for help, give yourself permission to process if you need to.
Yeah.
It's really okay.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kate. It's been so beautiful chatting with you, and I really appreciate being on today.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. We'll see you later.